children, let's now look into the important concept of the geography chapter, climate. Now, what is the difference between weather and climate? Weather describes the day-to-day conditions such as wind, temperature, cloudiness, moisture, etc. affecting a place. Whereas climate is the average weather condition usually taken over 30 years period for a particular region and time. Let's look into the elements of climate and weather. There are 5 elements. One is temperature, second one atmospheric pressure, third wind, fourth humidity, and last precipitation. But out of this, the 2 most important elements that affects the weather and climate of a place is temperature and precipitation. Temperature is the degree of hotness found in a place. Precipitation refers to rain, snow, hailstone that occurs in a particular area. Now, what type of climate does India have? India basically has a monsoon type of climate. Monsoon means seasonal shift in the prevailing wind direction. So, in India, we have monsoon type of climate as we experience rain throughout the year in many parts of our country. Now let's look what are the factors that affects the climate of a place. There are 6 major factors that affects the climate of the place. Latitude, altitude, pressure and wind system, distance from the sea, ocean currents, and relief features. Now first, let's look into the first factor, that is latitude. As we know, places near the equator receives direct rays of the sun than compared to the places far away from the equator. So in short, we can conclude places which are closer to the equator have more hotter climate than places which are far away from the equator. The next factor is altitude. Children, as we know, the higher we go, the colder we get. As we move away from the sea level, the temperature of that place becomes very, very cold. This is called altitude. Altitude means height above the sea level. So as we go away from the sea level or on a higher level, that place tends to be much cooler than those places which are at the sea level. The third point is pressure and wind system. Before we go into detail regarding this, there are few things which you should understand. Point number 1. The land gets heated faster than water and cools faster than water. The second point which we must know is regarding pressure. There are 2 types of pressure, high pressure and low pressure. What is high pressure? What is low pressure? For this, let's look at this picture. As we know, when the sun is above the land gets heated. So when the land gets heated, the air particles or the air molecules rises, it expands and becomes thin. And when it rises, it leaves a vacuum on the surface. This creates a low pressure in that area. Now let's look at the other side where there's water. Here, the water is cool. When the water is cool, the air molecules or the air particle does not rise. It remains there, it contracts and becomes heavier and automatically creates a high pressure and moves towards the empty space which is found in the land. So from here we can conclude that the movement of the wind is always from the high pressure to the low pressure. Second thing, when the wind moves due to the rotation and revolution of the earth, some parts of the wind are forced to take a right turn because of this movement. This is called Coriolis effect. So children, please keep this base in mind, because further in this chapter we are going to use this concept to explain the other remaining subtopics. The fourth point is distance from the sea. Like I mentioned in my previous slide, the wind moves from high pressure to low pressure. So if the wind is moving from ocean to land, it carries moisture. And obviously, the places on the coastal area receives moderate type of climate, because this wind carries moisture and it automatically brings in heavy rainfall. Now let's look at another scenario where the place is in the interior, far away from the sea. Here, the moisture will not reach that place. So obviously, that place will have extreme type of climate. That is, it will be very, very hot or very, very cold. Now, let's take the example of our country, India. In that, let's compare Mumbai and Delhi. Mumbai is on the coastal area, hence it receives moderate type of climate, whereas Delhi is in the interior. So by the time this air reaches Delhi, the moisture is lost and hence it experiences extreme type of climate. That is why Delhi is very, very hot or very, very, very cold. Another important factor that controls climate is the circulation of water and air. The air in the atmosphere and water in the ocean are in constant motion, distributing heat around the world in a regular pattern. There are two types of ocean currents: warm current and cold current. Warm current are those currents that blows from the equator towards the pole. And when it blows from the equator to the pole, it carries warm or hot air. So obviously those places are getting warm climate. The next one is cold current, that is from the poles towards the equator. So here the air or the wind that blows are much cooler, and those places tends to have cold climate. So we can also see that ocean currents plays a very important role in controlling a climate of a place. The last factor which affects the climate of the place is the relief of a place. Mountain often acts as a natural barriers for winds and moisture, affecting the climate of the area around this. The Himalayas influence the climate of Indian subcontinent by protecting it from the cold air masses of Central Asia. So, from this we can understand what are the factors that affect the climate of a place. Now let's look into the factors that affect the Indian climate. There are three factors. First one is latitude, the second one is altitude, the third one is pressure and winds. Pressure and winds are again subdivided into pressure and surface winds, upper air circulation, western cyclonic disturbances, and tropical cyclone. Now let's look at them one by one. Now, how does latitude affect India's climate? We all know that India lies between the latitude 8 degrees north to 37 degrees north. That is, it lies between the tropical and subtropical zone. So, keeping that in mind, the southern part of India receives direct rays of the sun. Hence, the southern part of India is more hotter than compared to the northern part of India, which receives slanting rays of the sun. So, hence, latitude plays a very important role in affecting the climate of India. Altitude, the next factor. The higher we go, the cooler we get. Places which are much higher from the sea level have much cooler climate than places which are on the sea level. In India, the altitude also affects the climate of the place of a particular state. Let's, for example, take Delhi and Shimla. Shimla is on a higher altitude compared to Delhi. Hence, Shimla is much cooler in summer compared to Delhi. Let's also take another example, Kodaikanal and Chennai. Kodaikanal is on a higher altitude. So, during summers, Kodaikanal is much cooler than Chennai. So, from this, we can conclude that altitude affects the climate of India. The last factor is about pressure and wind. This I have explained in the previous slides, that is about high pressure and low pressure. When the land gets heated, the air molecules rises, it becomes light and it expands. When it rises, it creates a vacuum on the surface and this automatically leads to low pressure. On the contrary, the water, when it is cooled, the air particle does not rise. It remains there, it contracts and becomes heavier and creates a high pressure. According to the flow of wind, wind always flows from high pressure to low pressure. So when the wind flows from water to land, it carries moisture which automatically ends up in having rainfall. Whereas when the wind flows from land, which is a high pressure, to water, which is on a lower pressure, it does not carry any moisture and obviously it does not result in any rainfall. So the movement of wind also helps in the climate of India. Now let's look into the first topic under pressure and winds, that is pressure and surface wind. I have explained about the two types of pressure in my previous slide. To explain this concept more clearly, let's take the summer season and winter season of India. What happens in summer season? In summer season, the land creates low pressure and the water or the oceans have high pressure. So the wind blows from high pressure to low pressure. So when the wind blows from high pressure to low pressure, it carries moisture and automatically it ends in giving rainfall to the places in India, especially the coastal region. Now let's take what happens in winter season in India. In winter season, the land is cold and the water is warm. So high pressure is there on the land and low pressure in the water. So again the wind blows in the reverse direction, that is from land to sea. When it blows from land to sea, it does not carry any moisture. They are dry winds. So obviously the places or the states through which the wind blows does not give any rainfall or hardly any rainfall. So we can have extreme type of climate during that season. So pressure and surface wind plays a very important role in affecting the climate of India. Now let's look at the next subdivision of pressure and winds, that is upper air circulation. Children, till now we were talking about winds that blows on the surface. Now we are going to look or discuss about winds that blows on the troposphere. These winds are called jet streams. Jet streams are located between latitudes 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south, and they are of two types. One is westerly jet stream and the second one is easterly jet stream. Westerly jet streams blows from west to east and easterly jet streams blows from east to west. Now let's see what is western cyclonic disturbance and tropical cyclone. Like I mentioned in my previous slide, jet streams have two types, westerly jet stream and easterly jet stream. The western cyclonic disturbance is experienced in the north and northwestern part of India. This is because of the westerly jet stream. The wind that blows from the Mediterranean seas enters India and they are stopped by the Great Himalayas. Because they come from sea to land, they also carry moisture. So these Himalayans act as a barrier and automatically results in heavy rainfall in the north and northwestern part of India. That is why we experience rain or snow in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal, Himadris and certain part of the northern plains of India during winter. Tropical cyclone occurs during monsoons as well as in October and November, and it is a part of the easterly wet streams. It is a circular storm that originates over the warm tropical ocean and is characterized by low atmospheric pressure, high winds and heavy rain. These disturbances affect the coastal region of our country. The Indian monsoons. What do you mean by the word monsoon? In the previous slide, we have come across or we have understood monsoons are nothing but reversible surface winds. And it is believed in the earlier times that the European traders used to come to India with the help of these monsoons and also go back to their countries with the help of these monsoons. But the word monsoon actually was given by the Arabs traders who used to come from Central Asia to trade with India. Now, what are the factors that affect the Indian monsoon? First one, differential heating and cooling of land and water, shift of position of ITCZ, high pressure at the east of Madagascar, heating of the Tibetan plateau, and last, movement of westerly and easterly jet streams. Now let's look at it one by one. The first one is differential heating and cooling of land and water. This I have already explained in my previous slide. The differential heating and cooling of land and water creates low pressure on the landmass of India while the sea around it experiences a comparatively high pressure. So we all know that the wind blows from high pressure to low pressure. So when the wind blows from sea to land, it carries moisture and automatically it results in rainfall, making the coastal area having a moderate type of climate. Whereas when the wind blows from land, which is a higher pressure, to water, which is a low pressure, it carries no moisture, hence those areas does not receive any rainfall or very less rainfall, making that places have extreme type of climate. The next one is shift of the position of ITCZ. Intertropical convergence zone. What does this mean? Children, we know that the earth revolves and rotates around the sun. When the earth moves around the sun, sometimes the rays of the sun does not fall directly on the equator, but it falls above the equator, just like in this figure 2. When this happens, low pressure is created here, or it is called the low pressure zone. Now let's look at the figure 4. Here we see high pressure moving from the poles towards the equator. So we see high pressure moving from the Arctic Circle towards the equator in the northern hemisphere and Antarctic Circle towards the equator in the southern hemisphere. These two high pressure meets the low pressure or merges with the low pressure. When this happens, when this merger takes place, it is called intertropical convergence zone. Since this high pressure carries lot of moisture, when they merge with the low pressure, heavy rainfall is experienced in this region. So, intertropical convergence zone plays a very important role in the monsoon of India. High pressure at the east of Madagascar. Where is Madagascar? Madagascar is a small island located in the Indian Ocean on the southernmost part of Africa. How does this affect or bring rainfall to India? Now we all know that Indian Ocean is located in the southern part of India. So high pressure is created in the Indian Ocean and low pressure in the Indian mainland. So the wind which blows from the Indian Ocean goes to Madagascar, from there where high pressure is already there, and from there blows straight to the states of India, carrying moisture which results in heavy rainfall. Heating of Tibetan Plateau. In summer, the land of Tibet is very hot, so it creates low pressure, whereas the Arabian Sea is cool, hence there is high pressure. And we have already learned that the wind blows from high pressure to low pressure. So in this scenario, wind blows from the Arabian Sea towards Tibet. So since it's blowing from sea to land, it carries lot of moisture. And when it enters the states of India through which it blows or through which it goes, it results in having heavy rainfall. So we can also say that heating of Tibetan Plateau helps in the monsoon of India. Movement of westerly and easterly jet stream. We have already discussed in a previous slide what is a jet stream and what is westerly and easterly jet stream. But how does this affect the climate of India, or how does it bring monsoons to India? Now let's look at the first diagram. In the first diagram, we can see the wind is blowing from west to east, and that is called westerly jet stream. So here the wind is blowing from the Mediterranean Sea towards India, and the mountains, the Himalayan mountains, act as a barrier. So since the wind is blowing from the Mediterranean Sea, it carries lots of moisture, and because of that, when it comes in contact with the Himalayan mountains, it is forced to drop it down as rain or snow. So this is how the northern part of India or the northwestern part of India receives heavy rainfall during the winter season. Now let's look at the easterly west stream. We all know India is a land of peninsula. It is surrounded by water on three sides, especially in the southern part of India. So the wind which blows from east to west is called easterly jet streams. When the wind blows from east to west, it carries lot of moisture, as there is Bay of Bengal, the Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea. And automatically, due to this Coriolis effect, some of the winds get diverted and enters into the land, and which results in heavy rainfall. A typical example of easterly jet stream that brings rain to a particular state is Tamil Nadu. Here in this picture we can see the wind is blowing from east towards west, and due to Coriolis effect, the wind takes a right turn and enters into Tamil Nadu, gets in contact with the Eastern Ghats, and automatically results in having heavy rainfall during the winter season. So from this we can understand the westerly jet stream and the easterly jet stream plays a very important role in bringing monsoons to India. Now let's look into some other factors that affect the monsoons of India. One such factor is called southern oscillation. Variation in pressure condition in the sea is called southern oscillation. This happens mostly in the southern hemisphere of the continent. Now let's see how does the southern oscillation affects the climate or affect the monsoons of India. Like I have told earlier, it depends on the variation of pressure in the sea. Now when this pressure in the sea is very, very strong or strong high pressure, it brings an intense rainfall to India. But when the pressure in the sea is really high, it brings normal rainfall to India. So depending on the pressure of the sea, the rainfall varies from intense rainfall to normal rainfall in India. A feature which is connected with sudden oscillation is El Nino. What is El Nino? For this, we have to go to Peru in South America. We know that the flow of currents plays a very important role in controlling the climate of a place. So, since Peru is located in the southern hemisphere, obviously cold currents will pass through it because it comes from the Arctic Circle towards the equator. But every 2 to 3 years, there is a change in the pattern. Instead of cold currents, Peru gets warm currents, and this is because of the rotation and revolution of the earth. When such a scenario takes place, India will not receive monsoon, or India will receive only very little monsoon, which can lead to heavy drought. So El Nino plays a very important role in the monsoon of India. Now we have learned what is monsoon, what are the factors affecting the monsoons of India. Now it's time to look into the different types of monsoons that occurs into India. There are two types of monsoons. One is the southwest monsoon or the advancing monsoon, and the next one is the northeast monsoons or the retreating monsoons. Now, before we go in detail about these two monsoons, or we discuss this in detail, let's look into the features of the Indian monsoons and find out why it is said to be very unpredictable. For first reason, it is because of its uncertainty. Second reason is the alteration of dry and wet spell that varies in intensity, frequency and duration. The third reason is because it causes flood in one area and drought in the other area. The last reason, because of its uncertainty in its arrival and departure, it sometimes disturbs the farming schedule of the farmer. Because of all these reasons, the Indian monsoons are said to be very unpredictable. Now, before we go into detail about the southwest and northeast monsoons, there are a few more points we should know. Number one, what is wet spell and dry spell? When rain starts, we see it keeps on raining continuously for so many days and suddenly it stops. This continuous rain is called wet spell. And when the rain stops and then again it starts, that time it's called dry spell. So wet spell means when the rain continues to drop, or when it continues to rain for so many days, it is called wet spell. And when the rain stops for some time and then again starts, it is called dry spell. The next thing is burst of monsoon. Before the monsoon actually begins, we can experience small showers of rain or small rains. These rains are called pre-monsoon showers. But slowly, these pre-monsoon showers becomes to be heavier, tides gets intensified and heavy rain starts. When such a scenario takes place, it is called burst of monsoon. Advancing monsoons are also called as southwest monsoons or onset monsoons. These monsoons begin in the month of June and continues till September. Now let's look how the southwest monsoon brings rainfall to India. As we already know, India is a peninsula and the southern part of India is located between three major seas. One is the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean and the Bay of Bengal. So during summer, the land gets heated faster than water. So low pressure is created in the land and high pressure in the water. So in this figure 2, we can see the wind is blowing from high pressure to low pressure, that is from sea to land. So when it is moving from sea to land, it carries moisture and automatically it ends up giving rainfall to the coastal areas of India. Now, since India is a peninsula and surrounded by water from 3 sides, the southwest monsoon has got 2 branches. One branch which starts from the Arabian Sea and the other branch which starts to the Bay of Bengal. So it's called the Arabian Sea branch and the Bay of Bengal branch. Both these branches bring heavy rainfalls in India during the month of June, July, August and September. We know that the southwest monsoon has got 2 branches. One is the Arabian Sea branch and the other one is the Bay of Bengal branch. Now let's look at it one by one. Let's see how the Arabian Sea branch brings rainfall to India. During summer, the Arabian Sea has high pressure and the land masses have low pressure. So wind blows from high pressure to low pressure. When it blows, it carries a lot of moisture, giving rain to the coastal areas of India. The first state to receive rain on the 1st of June is Kerala. From there, it goes northwards, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Goa, Gujarat, Saurashtra. And by the 10th of June, heavy rain is experienced in these regions. We also know that due to Coriolis effect, certain part of the wind blows towards the right. So when the Arabian Sea branch wind blows into India, a certain part of it moves towards Assam, Orissa, West Bengal, etc., bringing about heavy rainfall in the eastern part too. So the Arabian Sea branch not only gives rains to the western coastal area, but also gives rains to the eastern part of India. Now let's look at Bay of Bengal. Here again high pressure is created in Bay of Bengal and wind blows from high pressure to low pressure, carrying a lot of moisture, which results in heavy rains in Orissa, West Bengal, Assam, etc. Since the eastern part receives rain from both the branches, that is the Arabian Sea branch and the Bay of Bengal branch, the eastern part of India tends to have more rainfall than the western part of India. And a typical example is Monsoon, which is considered to be the world's highest rainfall area. Now let's see this diagram. Here we can see the Arabian Sea branch moves northwards, and when it reaches Gujarat, they take a right turn towards the Ganga plain. The same thing is seen by Bay of Bengal as it moves northeast, and once it reaches Assam, it takes a right turn towards the Ganga plain. So both the Arabian Sea branch and the Bay of Bengal merges at the Ganga plain, and this is called intertropical convergence zone. And because it carries lot of moisture, it results in heavy rainfall in this region during summers. This merging is also known as monsoon trough. Now let's have a quick recap of the southwest monsoon or the advancing monsoon. The Arabian Sea branch reaches Mumbai by the 10th of June. The Bay of Bengal reaches Assam by the first week of June. By the mid of June, the Arabian Sea branches arrives at Saurashtra and central parts of the country. The Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal branches merges in the northwestern part of the Ganga plain. Delhi received monsoon showers from Bay of Bengal branch by the end of June. By the first week of July, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, eastern Rajasthan experience monsoon. By the mid of July, monsoon reaches Himalayas and the rest of the country. So from this we can see how the southwest monsoon brings rainfall to India. Let's look to the next type of monsoon, that is a withdrawal of monsoon, and it is also called as the northeast monsoon or retreating monsoon. So we have understood that southwest monsoon starts from the month of June and goes up to September. By the time of October, these winds start returning back from the north towards the south. So this is called retreating monsoon or the northeast monsoon. Now another thing also we should take into account, by October, November, the northern hemisphere experiences winter and the southern hemisphere experiences summer. So now let's take the case of India. India is in the northern hemisphere, and by September the wind starts retreating from north to south. So obviously the lands are cool and the water is hot. So there is a high pressure created in the land and low pressure created in water. So you see the picture 2. Here high pressure is created. The oceans are having low pressure. So the wind obviously will blow from the high pressure to the low pressure. So as you can see, the winds are blowing from the high pressure area towards the low pressure. So when this wind blows, it comes in contact with Bay of Bengal. It comes in contact with Bay of Bengal, and due to Coriolis effect, it takes a right turns and enters into the eastern coastal plains of India in the south of India. And for example, it enters into Tamil Nadu. And since it is coming from Bay of Bengal, it carries lot of moisture which leads to heavy rainfall in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh during the month of November and December, and we all know that, children. So this is how Tamil Nadu receives rainfall during winters, or we can say Tamil Nadu receives rainfall from the northeast monsoons or retreating monsoons. So did you understand what is withdrawal of monsoons, or how does the flow of northeast monsoon take place? Now let's have a small recap of the northeast monsoon. The withdrawal of monsoons, like I said, begins from the northwestern state of India early by December. By mid-October, it reaches the northern half of the peninsular region, and from north to south, withdrawal of monsoon takes place from the first week of December. And by early December, monsoon has been withdrawn from the rest of the country. So this is a small recap on how the withdrawal of monsoons takes place in India. Distribution of rainfall. As we have seen in the previous slide, because of temperature, precipitation, different climatic condition, the distribution of rainfall is not same throughout India. So let's have a look at it, how the rainfall is distributed in India. Now, part of the western coast, some parts of the eastern coast, they get heavy rainfall up to 400 centimeters. Now, the Deccan Plateau gets very little rainfall or hardly gets any rainfall because they are in the interiors. The remaining part of India, they get moderate type of rainfall. Snowfall is found in the Himalayan region. Snowfall is found in the Himalayan region. So from this we can understand that rainfall is not same throughout India. But let me also tell you, this rainfall also unites India as one country. How do it do so, we will see in the coming slides. Before we go into the unification of monsoon, or how does the rainfall unite India as one, let's have a look at the seasons in India. India has 4 seasons. One is the cold season, hot weather season, or the hot season, or the summer season, advancing monsoon and retreating monsoon. Children, we have already discussed what is advancing monsoon and what is retreating monsoon. So I'm not going to speak about this anymore. So we will discuss here what is cold season or cold weather season and what is hot weather season. What is cold weather season? Cold weather or winter starts from the mid of November in North India and it continues till the month of February. December and January is considered to be the coldest part or the coldest month in India. Here the temperature decreases from south to north. Days are warm and nights are cold. The weather marks by the clear sky, low temperature, low humidity. This season is extremely important for the cultivation of rabi crops. The hot weather season. It begins from March and goes up to May. The summer month experiences a rise in temperature and following air pressure in the northern part of the country. The striking features of this hot weather season is Lu. Lu is a strong gusty hot wind that blows during the day over the north and the northwestern part of India. And another feature of this summer season is called Barsaki. This is the thunderstorm followed by rain, and this is mostly felt in West Bengal. Towards the close of summer season, we experience pre-monsoon showers. What is pre-monsoon showers? I have already mentioned this in my previous slide. So these pre-monsoon showers helps in the ripening of mangoes and hence we call it mango showers. Here during the hot summer season, the weather is very hot. People loves to have cool stuff like ice cream, juice, watermelon. People wear cotton clothes in order to prevent it from the heat of the sun. Now we come to the last topic of this chapter. Like I mentioned earlier, monsoon helps in uniting India as one. It acts as a unifying bond. How does it do so? Let's have a look. The landscape, its animals, the plant life, its entire agricultural calendar, the life of the people, including the festivals, revolves around this phenomena. Year after year, people of India from north to south, east to west, eagerly waits for the arrival of monsoon. These monsoon winds binds the whole country by providing water to the agriculture activities in motion. So from these 3 points, we can understand how monsoon acts as a unifying bond and how it unites all the Indian people under one roof. So children, I hope you have understood this chapter. I want you to go into it detail. When the school reopens, we'll have a go through on this chapter again. If there's any doubts, I will clear it that time. Thank you.